Hey, gang, whether your team scores or not, there's always another way to win on the Play Gun Lake online casino and sportsbook app. It is from BetParks, and it's the only app that I ever use and recommend. Michiganders are enjoying big-time college football. Detroit hockey is back. Detroit pro football is on a roll. This Saturday night, college football, Michigan, 4-point fave hosting Michigan State. That's big. Pro football Sunday, 1 p.m. Detroit's got a record of 5-1. They host Tennessee at Ford Field in Detroit. You can bet on more than just the score. Bet player performances. The one and only sportsbook and online casino app that I ever recommend in Michigan is Play Gun Lake. Remember, when I was in Grand Rapids a couple of weeks ago, I wagered on Detroit to win it all, the big game, as they say. Have some fun. Play live dealer action right now. How about those slots like Wheel of Fortune, Capital Gains, Stinkin' Rich? They've got them all. PlayGunLake.com for details. You got to be 21 and in Michigan. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Hey, gang, this is not necessarily more headlines from the Friday edition of the Smerconish.com daily newsletter, but it's something that I've been wanting to discuss. And for the benefit of those who watch on YouTube, and TC certainly can see this, this is my copy of the New York Times. Do you like all the markings?
Can you read it, Michael?
So this
is a little marked up.
This is the hard copy of the Wednesday New York Times. And what I've written on and written notes about is the Peter Baker page one above the fold, which actually came out online on Monday. Okay, so you know how this works. On Monday, they went live with this magnum opus from Peter Baker of the New York Times about Donald Trump, and then it hit the print edition on Wednesday. Actually, it hit the print edition on the copy that I picked up in Nevada. So I don't know if different versions revealed this story at different times, but I'm trying to explain something, and that is that I had read the story online on Monday, but it wasn't until I touched it and I looked at it. And again, for the benefit of those who are watching on YouTube, I'm going to treat you to just how
treat
big,
you to some Sharpie.
Yeah. I'm going to hold up just how big the coverage is.
Wow.
So it's not only page one above the fold, but it is also then 2 full pages. This is just one of those step back a moment stories. And I'm not arguing that this is going to make any difference whatsoever. Frankly, the fact that it comes from the New York Times is going to cause a lot of people to say, oh, this is them just trying to put their thumb on the scale. But it is a summary of all the scandal that has surrounded Donald Trump. And as I read it, I said to myself, there are probably 50 things in this. There are probably like 50 significant things in this piece. And any one of them would have knocked somebody out, except him. And the question that I wonder is, why hasn't it had that impact on him? Here's the way that it begins. When the history of the 2024 election is written, one of the iconic images illustrating it will surely be the mugshot taken of Donald J. Trump after one of his 4 indictments, staring into the camera with his signature glare. It is an image not of shame, but of defiance. The image of a man who would be a convicted felon before Election Day and yet possibly president of the United States again afterward. Sometimes lost amid all the shouting of a high-octane campaign heading into its final couple of weeks is the simple, if mind-bending fact America, for the first time in its history, may send a criminal to the Oval Office and entrust him with the nuclear codes. What would once have been automatically disqualifying barely seems to slow Trump in his comeback march for a second term that he says will be devoted to retribution. In all the different ways that Mr. Trump has upended the traditional rules of American politics, that may be one of the most striking. He has survived more scandals than any major party presidential candidate, much less president, in the life of the republic. Not only survived, but thrived. He has turned them on their head, making allegations against him into an argument for him by casting himself as a serial victim rather than a serial violator. And now I'm going to flip to the jump page. The question that you should be asking among yourselves is, why is this the case? And how much of it is about Trump and how much of it is about those who are perceived as Trump's enemies? And so much, you forget. I mean, it goes through his whole personal life. He likewise cheated. I'm just going to skip around. He likewise cheated to get into college. According to his estranged niece, Mary L. Trump, the future president paid a friend to take the SAT for him. That's what she asserts in her book, earning a score that later helped him transfer to the Wharton Business School at the University of Pennsylvania. Further along, after graduating in 1968, the former military academy cadet had no interest in serving in the real military and being sent to fight in Vietnam. He managed to avoid the draft with a diagnosis of bone spurs in his heels, a diagnosis that evidently was obtained as a favor from a podiatrist in Queens who rented his office from Mr. Trump's father, Fred Trump. And then it goes through, his business life. Even after recovering from that debacle being Atlantic City, Trump failed again. His casino company filed for bankruptcy in 2004, then again in 2009 for his sixth trip into that process. Trump had boasted that he still made money in Atlantic City after leaving a trail of losses for nearly everyone else involved. It's just unbelievable. Then we get into income taxes. And I'm skipping. I mean, there's so much that I'm skipping, but just a reminder. Tax documents obtained by the New York Times in 2020 showed that Mr. Trump paid only $750 in federal income taxes in 2016, the year that he first ran for president. By the way, I know that some of you are listening to this and you're saying, yeah, but, like in every one of these instances, like, oh, the niece, yeah, but isn't she a liar? The bone spurs, yeah, but is that really nailed down? Do we really know? Isn't that just a rumor? The taxes, yeah, but he was able to write off a bunch of losses. You can yeah, but your way through all of this. I'm just saying, like, stand back and listen to the totality of it and ask yourself, how's he been able to withstand all of this? You think in every one of these instances, he's being persecuted? Tax documents obtained by the Times in 2020 show that Mr. Trump paid only $750 in federal income taxes in 2016, the year that he first ran for president, and again in 2017, the first year of his presidency. In fact, in 11 of the 18 years examined by the Times, Trump paid no income taxes to the federal government. None. And you can say, well, he gets to write off all those losses, and you would be accurate. According to the Times investigation in 2018, Trump and his siblings took a real estate empire from his father that banks a few years later would value at nearly $900 million, and through favorable appraisals paid taxes on it as if it were worth just $57 million, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. TC, your thoughts so far?
Well, it's stunning, but I just maintain I'm listening, and I maintain nothing matters. We've seen it. We've been through this. This is nothing here is revelatory. The only thing is to see it all at once is a little bit astonishing, but there's nothing new. We know all of this.
I know, but
he just has defied every single norm of a politician, perhaps changing the way politicians can behave forever. We don't know this. I find it interesting, but also singular in its. He's just somehow able to buck every norm. That's what I would say.
Two impeachments, 4 indictments,
doesn't matter.
Conviction.
It doesn't matter. It does not matter.
Because, I mean, it's like the early days, he went to the military academy, but then he avoided serving in the real military. He inherited a fortune from his father but declared bankruptcy umpteen times in Atlantic City. Had a tabloid war with his first wife, the Ivana divorce, if everybody remembers that.
Page 6.
The affairs, the defamation case, the sexual assault case with E. Jean Carroll, the IRS audit, Um,
Again, nothing new. Keep talking,
okay,
but it
you
doesn't
remember
matter.
you remember Trump University?
Yes.
You remember that one?
The stakes, the this, the that, everything.
Russia.
I think he
All of the
just,
generals, the suckers and
yep,
losers, John
you,
McCain.
all of these things. And yet somehow he has tapped in to a really huge portion of our country. It's a big country. And I say this to my friends here in the Northeast in their liberal bubbles often, that their astonishment at his popularity is part of the problem. That is what I say to them. Like the fact that you cannot fathom it is part of the problem.
I'm simply saying that if you were talking about Barack Obama, if you were talking about Bill Clinton, if you were talking about anyone else
on the right or the left,
and you had, I'm holding this up now for the benefit of YouTube, and if you had any one of these things,
yes,
any one of these things would have been a career ender. And
yes.
why isn't it for him? But wait a minute. Is it because there's this allegiance to Trump, or is it because there is opposition? He is their pit bull. He is their gun in a knife fight against the left, against progressivism, against the Squad and Pelosi and Schumer, and you know what I mean? Like,
it's
who
both.
cares? He's the guy. He's the mercenary that we have hired.
It's both of those things, and the more the left hammers him, the more they elevate him.
Okay, well, I go back to where I began, which is the fact that this is the New York Times and it's Peter Baker, and it's being dropped within 2 weeks of the election outcome is simply, yeah, okay, so what?
Correct. That is, you're 100% right. Yes.
I simply wanted to say,
but it's fascinating
to look at the paper and to just go through and relive it all. It's mind-boggling.
Astonishing.
It's absolutely mind-boggling.
I agree.
Okay. All right. We love when you vote on the poll question at Smerconish.com, and we appreciate when you suggest poll questions of your own. TC, let us do some additional
We'll circle back to more because
why not?
Special for a Friday. Okay, well, this one.
Hey, and can I say one other thing that I know you're going to caution me. I'm not at liberty to discuss, but
you're not.
I'm just going to say I'm working on something special for Election Day. That's all I'm going to say.
Hopefully we'll be able to announce that next week.
I'm working on a special Election Day broadcast. Can I say that?
You may say that. Okay, this one dovetails so nicely to what we were just talking about from Stu Pollock in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. If Trump loses this election, will the GOP move on from his brand of politics?
No, you will not have someone exactly in that mold because there's nobody else. I mean, can I go back and show you the New York Times again and say nobody else? I mean, if JD Vance had this in his background, he's just not going to, politically speaking, survive.
Okay, but not his behavior, his brand of politics. In other words,
well, but that is the Republican Party.
Yeah.
I mean, the Republican Party today is a MAGA party. It is not a Liz Cheney party. And part of the reason is that a lot of people like me have gotten out. I mean, what would happen if everybody who got out went back in?
We got to talk about that.
And made a bid for leadership of the Republican Party. I don't think it would be successful. So you're going to have to deal with the elements that gave rise to Trump for a long time after Trump is gone. I thought the suggested poll question was going to be, if Trump loses the election, what then happens to all of the litigation? If Trump loses the election, his life really is just over, because financially he is on the hook for hundreds of millions of dollars that the leverage of the presidency might allow him to forestall. He's going to get sentenced in the one case where he's already been convicted. Would Judge Merchan in the hush money case send him away for a long time? No, but his liberty interest is in jeopardy there. And the Judge Chutkan case, the January 6th case, I imagine, I mean, this is a really interesting question that we'll address in 10 days, which is if Trump loses, is there any scenario where President Kamala Harris pardons him in the sake of national unity and just to get beyond Donald Trump?
Well, she can't pardon the state cases, right?
Cannot. So the Mershon case goes on, and I don't know that the Georgia case ever comes to fruition, but the January 6th case and the Mar-a-Lago document case, which right now is sort of going nowhere, but could be resuscitated. But that's going to be a really interesting. That's going to be a really interesting thing. You think about Shane Inspector being in studio
Yes.
earlier this week and talking about the Central Park Five, or as he would say, the exonerated five. And I said to him, what happens if Trump loses? What happens if Trump wins? If Trump wins, that case would be held in abeyance. But if Trump loses, that case goes on. Are all of these things truly going to materialize? I don't know. We're perhaps soon to find out.
David in West Haven, Connecticut asks, do you think the daily questions Smerconish puts out are deliberately chosen for a one-sided liberal reply?
David, I assure you, nothing could be further from the truth, and nothing bums me out more than an 80-20 or a 90-10 response. Sometimes it's unavoidable. I was going back and forth with Peter Meltzer, who is a friend. He's a lawyer. He's an author. He's written for Smerconish.com. And Peter is the one who, not that I need it pointed out to me, but continually points out to me, the left-wing bias, the progressivism in the vote outcomes at Smerconish.com. And I say to him, I don't think that's indicative of the audience. I hope that the audience is more balanced than sometimes the poll results would suggest, but I assure you, I don't go looking for lopsided answers.
Well, and I think it's important to point out to David from West Haven, Connecticut, that I would say 9 times out of 10, you are on the losing side of the vote. So
also true.
You are certainly not trying to put some liberal thing forward. I would say possibly the opposite. So you are very disappointed when you get the results that David is talking about. So
True.
worth noting.
True.
This is a very important question. This next one.
I'll be the judge of this.
Roy from Knoxville, Tennessee asks, is Michael going to hell?
Well, is Michael going to burn in hell? This, of course, in reference to the Ron Reagan segment that we had. I thoroughly enjoyed. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation that I had with Ron Reagan about the commercial that we all hear all the time. I'm Ron Reagan, not afraid to burn in hell.
We just heard it.
And when we went to the calls thereafter, some people were offended by it. There were a number of callers who said that it felt in your face, or it feels in your face.
People in my orbit were completely offended, not by the interview, but by the ad.
But I said to him, and it was in part predicated on a caller who made this observation. If he's only pitching, I am a believer in the separation of church and state.
Yes.
Okay. You don't need to be, you can be a believer. You can be a person of faith. You don't have to be an atheist or agnostic to want to have that be the case. And he agreed with that. And he said, maybe I need to redo the commercial. I think that he enjoyed being here, and it was a great, and we released it as a podcast.
My favorite part of it was when you were suggesting that you could do one as a believer, but still someone that was for the separation of church and state, and that your tag would be, I'm Michael Smerconish, slightly afraid of burning in hell.
So our friends, the Pollock brothers of Radioactive Media, based out there in Irvine, California.
Hello, Pollock brothers.
They may have reached out for me afterwards to say, are you prepared to cut that commercial?
Please, Michael, my hand to God. I would literally, I mean, this whole thing has become such a source of amusement. I can't even tell you. Wow. Yes. But by the way, separation of church and state, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. I told him, I told him, I don't think so, but maybe it depends on the script.
Okay.
Maybe it depends on the script.
Kathy from Indian Harbor Beach, Florida. If only the swing states and the Electoral College matter, why should I bother to vote?
Where is she?
She is in Indian Harbor Beach, Florida.
In Florida. Okay.
Yes.
So she believes, Florida, no longer Florida in the Tim Russert era of 2000. She feels like Florida is a foregone conclusion, and it's going to be red. It's going to be Trump. The simple answer is because there's a lot more on your ballot than just the top of the ticket. A third of the Senate is up every 2 years. The House is up every 2 years. Every year, there's a lot going on. Don't just vote in presidential elections. And even in a presidential election, remember, what happened in 1980 when Reagan defeated Carter is that the race was called before Californians had finished voting. And it impacted turnout because a lot of people like this individual said, well, the hell with it. I'm not going to go out and vote. They don't need my vote. And that then impacted what went on down ballot. So no. There's always something at stake, and every year is an election year. It could be a municipal year, state year, federal year, but you got to vote, and don't be dissuaded, even if the presidential election is a foregone conclusion in your area. Really quickly, TC, one more.
Will Albert DeRoe from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Will the Detroit Lions make it to the Super Bowl this season?
Yes.
Oh,
yes. I don't know why you're asking me, but when I was in Grand Rapids,
I'm not sure why he was asking either.
But when I was in Grand Rapids and I was playing with Play Gun Lake, which is a casino sponsor of mine, and I had the opportunity for new users to make a wager on who's going to win it all, I went with Detroit. So I've put my money where my mouth is. I put my money where my mouth is. Ladies and gentlemen, vote on today's poll question at Smerconish.com. And I love it when you suggest poll questions of your own. Okay. Thanks for that.